What is going on, everyone? Welcome to Halloween Horror 3 and welcome to Day 9. For Day 9, I'm reviewing Phantasm 5, or known as Phantasm 5 Ravager. So, Ravager is a sequel that took a long time to come. After Phantasm 4, a lot of the fans of the franchise wanted a fifth movie. You know, at the end of Phantasm 4, you kind of can take it for what it is. You can think that it leads off for a potential fifth movie or just a way to end the franchise. But a lot of fans out there took it as it leaves the door open for a potential sequel. And this was something that was going on for the longest time. And next thing we know, it's happening. Then fast forward, a trailer comes out, and then the movie comes out. Now, the interesting thing I will say about this is that this movie, for some weird reason, the film itself, I believe, came out maybe a couple years after the trailer was dropped. Don't quote me on that, but at least from what I can remember, that's what it seemed to be. That at least seemed to be the case from what I can remember. So Phantasm 5 Ravager. What can I say about this movie? First and foremost, you can definitely tell it's a straight to home video, low budget sequel. Compared to the other films, this one definitely stands out. The story is, to many, they can state that the story is a little all over the place, but for me, I think the story kind of plays, you know, games and tricks with your brain because it basically plays, excuse me, it basically plays on the conscience of if things are actually real or everything that we think is going on is not. Um, and that's kind of the plot. So in this film, Reggie is pretty much on his own. He is trying to find Michael, especially after the events of the fourth movie. And Reggie ends up coming out of, I guess, that portal with the two metal things, which I'll show you guys right here. I don't know what they call them, but these little things, you go in between them, they kind of send you to a different dimension. So what ends up happening is Reggie comes out of that, and he doesn't have his car, he has no weapons, he has nothing, so he's kind of on his own. Eventually, he does actually get his car back. Somebody stole it, he's able to get it back and everything. Throughout the film, as he's trying to find Michael, he comes across a few characters. Reggie, of course, being the perv that he is, it's expected. And then, as we're watching this movie, Reggie's kind of going in between these two different realities. One of him, trying to find Michael, defeat the tall man, while the other is him in this old, this facility for older people. He's sick, he's got an illness, and, in that reality, Michael's there, Jody's alive. They basically, in kind of a weird sense, if you watch the second film, Reggie thought Reggie thought that Michael was just kind of making up this stuff, but in this, it's the one Reggie's coming up with, and Michael's like, that's not real and everything. So we're coming across this different, these two different realities. So eventually, Reggie is able to wake up. You're at times you don't know what exactly is going on. It seems like everything that is going on in Reggie's head to some extent. Eventually, he does reunite with Michael. We do meet some new characters as well as a returning character from the franchise. And then what I thought was interesting was that, Michael explains to Reggie what's been going on since the fourth movie. Tells him, you've been on pretty much on ice the last few decades. This was what's been going on. And what we do find out is that the tall man has taken over. There was a like a virus that was taking people out, and just things kind of went into this post-apocalyptic type of world, which I think a lot of people did not like. To me, I thought was pretty interesting. Of course, Angus Grimm as the tall man. wonderful as always, and you could tell he didn't look too healthy. I think this film actually, I believe, came out in 2016, later in that year, and unfortunately, I think we lost Angus Scrimm back in, I think, January of 2016. Do not quote me on that, but at least from what I can remember. Um, so yeah, throughout the film, it's just everybody, him reuniting with Michael, going back through these different realities and things like that. And then something that is interesting, and this will be a spoiler, is that Jodie is alive. How is Jodie alive? So I feel like to some extent throughout the entire franchise, this franchise has been playing on your mind throughout the entire film. What you think exists doesn't actually exist. It's almost like the Mandela effect. That's kind of what you're getting in this movie, and they play it really well, because then you start to question the entire franchise as a whole, well, which is smart. Um, Now, one thing I thought that was interesting, but I wish they would have kind of explained that. But what I think, and this is just my theory, is that when Reggie comes out of whatever dimension he was, I feel like he is feeling the effects of this, where that's why he is bumping into these different realities. One that exists in his reality, and the other is just what his mind's playing tricks on him. That's kind of what I get. And it's kind of, in a way, can understand the tall man and what happened to him. I think that's the same thing that happened to him. Something took over, and I mean, I think he was starting to try to figure out what is reality and what is not. And then I think eventually something took over him. But that's just my theory. So I thought that was pretty interesting, that they were doing all this. Interesting that Jodie's, uh, alive. I'm in some way. This is just my opinion. I think Jodie, when he was in that sphere, was able to find a way to either make a replica of his body, so that's not actually a human body, but like some type of, I guess, in some way a robot or something. I don't know. Or it's a Jodie from, a different, I guess, dimension, whatever. I don't know. It's hard to say, but I just wish they would have explained why Jodie is alive. Because for me, when the returning character that we get from the franchise, that's not Jodie, that makes me start to think, okay, this is the same, universe of the previous films. It's just I feel like Reggie's feeling the after effect of him going through those two, in between those two bars, and going to a different dimension of some sort. And then that effect is causing, issues with him on what's real and what's not. Excuse me. Which is kind of similar to some things that have happened in the previous films. So, with all that going on, I thought, wow, this actually works perfectly. Excuse me, because it's playing a mind trick on you and trying to make you question actually what's going on, as well as what has happened in the past four previous films. So, really cool. Um, you can definitely tell Don Coscarelli did not direct this. They had somebody else. And for what this new director did, I think Don Coscarelli was there to guide this new director and help him in any way. But for what we got, I thought was decent. I feel like it could have been a little bit better if Don Coscarelli had taken over, considering so many fans wanted him to do this sequel. But he did write and everything, so that was awesome. Everybody returned, as well as bringing some new characters in, as well as bringing like at least one actor from the original series, from the franchise. Not the three main original actors. You get those, but there's one character from part three that shows up, and that seems to be, from what I remember, seems to only be the only character. But I thought that was pretty cool. The CGI is questionable. At times, it's really awful, especially the sphere. I think when you look back at the sphere from the previous films, it looks 10 times better compared to this new one, which is a shame. Angus Scrimm works wonders, kind of similar to characters like Beetlejuice and a few other horror characters, where they only show up a specific amount of time throughout the entire film, I think Angus Scrimm works wonders, especially considering that this was his final role. You can tell he was not looking too healthy, but he pushed through and gave that menacing, facial expression and our favorite, line for the film. And it was great seeing everybody. It was interesting to see that things have become a post-apocalyptic type of world and situation, especially with the tall man, especially when Michael explains what's been going on since Reggie apparently has been in like this. I would say in like this coma for a long period of time after the events of the fourth movie, after you get a glimpse of what he's been going through. And that's the cool thing I like, is they picked up like right where the fourth movie ended. They kind of give you like a bunch of flashbacks of that situation, so I thought that was pretty cool. Could they have done better? Absolutely. I feel like if Don Coscarelli took over, I think things would have been a little bit different in the way of directing. I feel like it was more of just giving the fans what they wanted and not really giving too much care to it, which is still a little disappointing. I feel like even if we asked for it and you wanted to give it for the fans, just put a little heart into it. I mean, if you're really proud of the franchise and proud of the fan base, and you want to do this for the fan base, then you need to put more of an effort and a little bit of, heart into it. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much the plot and my thoughts on the film. If you guys have seen Phantasm 5 Ravager, let me know down in the comments below. But yeah, it's interesting and crazy to think that we finally got that fifth and final installment in the franchise that we have been wanting for so many decades. I mean, the first movie came out, or not the first movie, the fourth movie came out in 1998. So this was something that we've been wanting for a while. It was brought up to the cast at conventions when people were asking them questions. They were down for it, and it finally happened. Did it happen a little too late? To some extent. I appreciate it. I appreciate it more and more every time I watch it, and I try to understand it a little bit differently as well, and I think it makes my viewing experience a lot better. Even though some things can be questionable, especially the CGI. But thank you guys for tuning in to day 9 for the Halloween Horror 3. And I hope you guys enjoyed. I'm Film Talk with Mikey, and until next time, guys, we'll talk films. You guys have a good one, and I will see you for day 10. Take care.